I know what you're thinking. Holy crap, the holidays are here and I have no idea what to get for the horror fan on my gift list. Well, if that describes you, you've come to the right place. It's true, the gift-giving season is once again upon us. Halloween has passed, Thanksgiving has passed, I'm slowly but surely starting to burn off some of the excess calories I've consumed. Krampusnacht is here, Christmas is coming right up, Hanukkah is happening even as we speak, and all of that just means everyone is running around trying to figure out what gifts to buy for everyone on their list. In this video, we're going to talk about some of my ideas for great gifts that you can give to the horror fan in your life. And this is a follow-up to a similar video that I made last year, and in fact, the gift ideas that I suggested last year are still just as valid this year as they were then, and some of them are in a similar vein and some of them are completely different. But I think I've come up with a good selection of quite a variety of different gifts, different types of things, different price levels. So hopefully, if you're shopping for a horror fan, or even if you're just looking for something for yourself, you'll find something among my gift ideas that seems right for you. And so with all of that out of the way, let's get right to it and see what gifts you might want to leave under the tree this year. We begin with something seasonally appropriate. This is a handmade Krampus doll. This is made by Alan Hops of Stiltbeast Studios, who also have a YouTube channel that's worth checking out if you're interested in making things, making monsters. But they also sell these in their online store. This is a lovely little posable Krampus. They come in a variety of different configurations, so you can get one that looks just the way that you want your Krampus to look. And it is fully posable, so mine is usually sitting on my bookcase. This is a wonderful gift for Krampusnacht or Christmas or any of the December holidays. In a similar vein to the Krampus doll, you've already seen this if you watched the video in which I was ranting about scams for horror products that we've all seen on Facebook. This was not a scam, this is a legitimate one, although there were people pretending to sell these. This is also a handmade item, a little Mothman plush doll. This is available on Etsy. You may not get this in time for Christmas this year because the turnaround on shipping takes quite a while because, again, these are handmade. But a little Mothman doll would be a wonderful addition to any collection, and these are also highly recommended. And if you like horror-themed decor, or again, if you're shopping for somebody who likes horror-themed decor, you're going to love this next item. These are horror character garden gnomes. They're small little garden gnomes, so maybe you don't want to put them in your garden. In fact, I keep them on one of my bookcases, and they become library gnomes instead of garden gnomes. But they come in a variety of characters. You can get just one of them, or you could get the whole set. These are a nice little piece of horror decor. They're perfect for any horror fan. And kind of in a similar vein, if you like weird things, no horror fan's collection is complete without a nice voodoo doll. This is a voodoo doll that was handmade by a voodoo priestess in New Orleans. You're probably not going to find one exactly like this, but voodoo dolls come in all different shapes and sizes. You can find them all over the internet or oddity shops, and voodoo dolls of course make excellent stocking stuffers for any horror nerd. And while we're thinking of weird things and oddities, many horror fans, myself included, have cabinets of curiosities. We're not just interested in horror books and horror movies, although we certainly are interested in those things, but we're also interested in artifacts from weird things or horrifying things that have happened in real history. Now, admittedly, this kind of thing isn't for everyone, but if you or the person you're shopping for is the kind of person who likes to collect that kind of weird thing, there are shops that specialize in selling artifacts from serial killers and crimes and a variety of different sick and twisted sorts of things, and those also make interesting gifts. As an example, these are stones. This one is from Vlad the Impaler's prison chamber, and this one is from Elizabeth Bathory's, the Blood Countess. This is from her castle. And so these are just little stones from these castles. And of course they come with certificates of authenticity. I warn you that when you're buying this kind of thing, there are a lot of fakes on the market, so make sure you're buying from a trusted source. And I should note, I'm not recommending these ones in particular. I don't even know if you can find Vlad the Impaler or Elizabeth Bathory items on the market currently. I haven't checked. These were given to me as a gift. But I am recommending this kind of oddity. Whoever you're shopping for, figure out what they're interested in, whether it's historical characters or more recent serial killers or true crime things or whatever it is they're interested in, and find some artifact from that, and it will be a great gift that they can put proudly into their cabinet of curiosities. Moving on from oddities, among the best gifts you could buy for anyone, horror fan or not, are books. And books come in all different shapes, sizes, price ranges, mass market, limited edition, first edition, antique books. You name it, you could find something for anyone if you check bookstores. And in fact, my recommendation is just to buy horror books for horror fans. I do have a couple of specific titles that I'm going to highlight, but note that I'm not necessarily recommending only these titles. I'm just recommending books in general. The first one I actually want to highlight specifically would make a great Hanukkah gift. I realize it's a little late. We are still in Hanukkah as I film this, and presumably we will still be in Hanukkah when I get this posted, but if you wanted to order one, I don't know if you'd get it before the holiday ended, but it's also just a great book in general. Jewish or not, it's a fascinating read, and there's some great authors in it, and that is The Jewish Book of Horror. And this is put out by the Denver Horror Collective, and it features a lot of great authors. I have not read the entire book yet. I've been slowly working my way through it. There's some good stuff in here, and of the stuff I haven't read yet, there are some authors that I know reliably put out good stuff. So this would make a great Hanukkah gift for the Jewish people on your gift list. This would also just make a great gift for anyone, because Jewish horror, even if you're not Jewish, provides a great perspective on the horror genre, and this is an excellent read. One of the things I recommended last year when I was talking about books is try to find rare books, limited editions, out of print, something like that. I make the same recommendation again this year. And two that I've chosen to highlight are ones that I actually acquired this year. The first of those is The Seven by Brian Keene. This is the first book in his Labyrinth series. This is a limited edition. I believe you can also find a paperback edition if you're just interested in the book. I'm not sure if the paperback's out yet or if it's coming soon. I'd have to check on that. But you will be able to find a copy of this book. You may not be able to find this limited edition of the book. But again, I'm not necessarily recommending that you buy this book, but I am recommending that you buy this kind of limited edition. It makes a great gift. Another one that I got this year is We Need to Do Something. This is the limited edition that includes the novella and the screenplay, because this was also made into a movie that came out earlier this year. I'm not recommending the movie as a gift idea, because while it is a great movie, I have seen it, it's not yet out on DVD. It's only available digitally, and personally, I don't think non-physical digital copies make very good gifts in general. Sometimes they do, but in general I prefer to have a thing. So that's not on my idea list, but this book is, and I think there are actually still copies of this limited edition available from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think they're still available, and if this edition's sold out, you should at least be able to find another edition of We Need to Do Something by Max Booth. But of course, rare books and limited editions are not the only great gifts. Regular books, hardcovers, paperbacks, whatever, also make great gifts in a different sort of price range. A couple that I'm going to highlight are books that came out earlier this year, including My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, which is an excellent read, and The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, which admittedly is actually more of a thriller than a horror novel, although it deals with horror tropes, so it's still interesting for horror fans. If you're looking for just an amusing book, you might try something like How to Survive a Horror Movie by Seth Grahame-Smith. This is just a short little book that's full of tips and tricks for surviving sort of stereotypical horror movies. It's a lot of fun to read. And if you're buying for somebody who has more of an academic sensibility, you might try a book about some of the theory of horror. Literary theory or psychological theory, something along those lines. Here's one that I've actually not read, but I'm looking forward to digging into, and that's Psychological Reflections on Cinematic Terror, Jungian Archetypes in Horror Films. This promises to be a really interesting book. I am a Jungian, there's not many of us left, I realize, so I'm quite looking forward to this one. So again, I've not read it, so I can't say I'm recommending this book, but I am certainly recommending this type of book if you're shopping for somebody who likes to read nonfiction about the horror genre. And let's not forget the classics. If you saw my video about Macbeth, and if you didn't, shame on you, then you know that I have a particular production of Macbeth that I think is, bar none, the best production I've ever seen. It was actually the production directed by Teller, the magician of Penn and Teller fame. Well, the Folger Shakespeare Library put out an edition of Macbeth, this edition, that actually includes a DVD of Teller's production. So you get the text and the DVD. So I am recommending Macbeth. Don't ignore the classics. I think Macbeth is a great horror story. But also I'm recommending this specific edition because it comes with that bonus DVD, and that's a great way to see a truly excellent production of Macbeth. And finally, in terms of books, as I said last year, it's just not the holidays without food. In last year's gift guide, I suggested the Hannibal Lecter cookbook based on the Hannibal TV show. I'm not going to recommend the same book again this year, but I did find another horror-themed cookbook, and that's this book. This is Cannibal Kitchen, a Horror Lover's Cookbook by Shannon Rouleau. This book, unlike the Hannibal cookbook, doesn't have a lot of really exotic ingredients and super fancy recipes. These are your basic sort of home cooking comfort food kinds of recipes, but each one is paired with a horror movie. So there's a lot of great recipes in here. I think even if you just want a cookbook, this would be a good choice. If you specifically want a horror cookbook, and you're watching my channel, so I assume you do, this would be an excellent choice, and this would be a perfect gift for the sort of culinary-minded among your horror fans on your gift list. Another thing that I recommended last year, and I'm going to recommend again this year, is if you have the budget for it and are looking for something maybe a little bit more special, something unique, something a little bit more extravagant, consider buying original horror artworks. Now, art is a personal thing. I can't necessarily recommend a specific piece, and in fact, if I already have that piece, then you wouldn't be able to buy it. But I am going to highlight one just as an example. This is one that I acquired earlier in the year. This is a painting of Mothman. And this Mothman painting is by an artist named Michael Kulik. I really quite love this piece. So again, I'm not recommending this one. This one is mine. But I am recommending original horror art. Pick an artist that you like or that you think your recipient will like. Pick a character that they like, something like that, and find some original art. That would be a truly excellent gift. An important thing to know when shopping for horror fans is horror fans don't come in just one variety. There are all different shapes and sizes and obsessions within the horror genre. Some of us just like to, for instance, read horror books or watch horror movies. Others of us make horror into more of a lifestyle. And if you're shopping for somebody in that latter camp, the kind of person who really seriously likes to have, for instance, a zombie apocalypse plan, you might want to get them something that they could use in a hypothetical zombie apocalypse. If that's the kind of person you're shopping for, you really can't go wrong with something like a machete. This particular machete is a great zombie killing device. This one is by the Schrade Company. And these are actually surprisingly not as expensive as you would think, and they make excellent gifts for the sort of obsessed zombie apocalypse kind of horror fan. A lot of horror fans are also gamers, and there's different kinds of games, and horror games also make wonderful gifts for that sort of horror fan. And, of course, as I've said about books, and as I'll say about other things, I'm not just recommending specific titles, although I'll give you a couple of examples, but I am recommending games in general as excellent gifts. For horror video gamers, if you can find one, I mentioned last year the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5. Both of those would make excellent gifts for horror video gamers, particularly with some excellent horror games out now or coming out for those platforms. When I made my video last year, there was a shortage of these game consoles, and I figured, well, by this year, assuredly, we'd be able to find them. Well, turns out supply chain issues are continuing to haunt us, and I still can't find an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 anywhere. If you happen to find one, you might want to grab it. It would make a great gift if you're buying something in that price range. But unfortunately for a lot of us, it seems like those are still going to be elusive for the duration of this holiday season as well, and probably well into next year. That doesn't mean all is lost, however. There are some great horror video games that you could buy as a wonderful gift. In fact, one that just came out this year around Halloween is this one. This is House of Ashes from the Dark Pictures anthology. Last year I recommended Little Hope, also from the Dark Pictures anthology. That was the second one in the series. This is the third one in the series. The first one that came out previously was called Man of Medan. These are excellent horror games. They're good for single player or for multiplayer, and I really can't recommend them highly enough. They're not perfect games. I would be the first to point out some flaws, but overall these are really an excellent series, and House of Ashes is no exception. But you don't need to just go for the new release. You could also go for horror games that may be a couple of years old. A good example of that would be Call of Cthulhu. This game admittedly received mixed reviews from Lovecraft fans. Some of them loved it, some of them thought that it took maybe too many liberties with the source material. I'm in the camp that thought this was an excellent game. Your mileage may vary, but horror games in general are excellent gift choices. We also don't need to limit ourselves to only video games. Horror board games are also great gifts. One that I'll highlight this year is this one. This is Reign of Cthulhu. This is based on the modern classic Pandemic board game. I've played that game. In fact, I played it fairly regularly when it came out, and it was an excellent game. This follows largely the same game mechanics, but it's all Cthulhu themed. It's all Lovecraftian. And so the pieces, you've got monsters running around, and you're trying to get things done before the great old ones wake up. This is also an excellent board game. In fact, one thing that's really nice about this game is that it's a cooperative game. So if you're playing with a group that maybe some people are more hardcore gamers and some people don't know games quite as well, this is a cooperative game, so everyone's on the same team, everyone's working together. Nobody necessarily wins or loses, or rather, everybody wins or loses all at the same time, so it's a lot of fun. I'll also recommend one of my very favorite board games, which is Betrayal at House on the Hill. This is a game that starts out as cooperative play, but then at some point, one of the players that's randomly selected based on things that are happening in the game is chosen to betray everybody else. And so it starts out cooperative, but then it ends with everybody against this one player who has betrayed the group. But that betrayer, even though it seems like everybody against one is unfair, that betrayer has certain advantages, and it's just a lot of fun. There are a lot of horror themes, and there are different stories. In fact, if we open it up, inside there are these storybooks. This storybook contains all of the different scenarios that you might play, and then when the circumstances arise that one of the players betrays, they go off and secretly read the traitor's tome that gives them their secret information that they need to know that the other players can't know. So this is the kind of game that's different every time you play it, or at least it's different every time for many times because there are a lot of stories. The game mechanics are just perfect. This really is an excellent game. That's Betrayal at House on the Hill. And the next item I'm going to recommend is an item that technically isn't a board game, although it's frequently marketed along with board games. Regardless of whether you consider it a game or not, it's something every horror fan should have, and that's a Ouija board or a spirit board. Here's a good example. I particularly like this one. Of course, you don't need to get this one. Oh, here's the planchette that comes with it. You don't need to get this one in particular. You just need to find one with an aesthetic that you particularly like, and it makes an excellent gift as well. You didn't think I was going to get through this entire video without talking about horror movies, did you? Well, indeed I'm not, and the next group of items that I'm going to recommend are in fact horror movies. And like was the case with books, I'm not only recommending a few specific titles, but I'm recommending horror movies in general as a great gift. Find ones that match the particular subgenres that whoever you're shopping for likes. Buy some of those movies. In particular, try to find some of the lesser known films that maybe they haven't already seen. Contrary to that last piece of advice, a couple of the ones that I'm going to highlight this year are sort of modern classics. Of course, we have Krampus, a seasonal horror movie that makes a great gift. We also have Deathcember, the horror movie advent calendar. And if you like horror musicals, you might try Anna and the Apocalypse. This is a Christmas zombie musical. And I'll be the first to admit, this is not my favorite musical in the world. I found that the songs were good, and I enjoyed listening to them, and I enjoyed watching the movie, but they weren't the kinds of songs that I found myself sort of humming to myself for weeks after watching it, like some of the best musicals have done to me. So, it's not a perfect film, but it's an excellent film, and it's become something of a holiday tradition for a lot of people. Beyond those seasonal classics, though, there are plenty of other great horror movies. One in particular that I want to highlight is one that probably most of you don't know, and that is Adam the Amazing Zombie Killer. Now, this is a movie put out by a local group called BizJack Flimco, and this is literally a zero-budget movie. They used only stuff that they had on hand. They made this on zero budget, and it shows its low budget or its no budget origins, to be sure, but it's also just a really fun film, and since a lot of people don't know about it, I am highlighting this one as also a great gift. And beyond individual movies, if you want to spend a little bit more, horror movie box sets or horror TV box sets also make wonderful gifts. A good example would be this. This is the complete series of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now this includes every season of the show as well as one of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer comic books. So if you're a Buffy fan or if you're shopping for a Buffy fan, this would be a great gift. Even if you're not a Buffy fan, box sets in general make great gifts. There's one of 30 of the Universal Monster movies. There are box sets of the Halloween movies, the Friday the 13th movies, the Supernatural TV show. Anything related to horror makes a great box set, and those make wonderful gifts. Well, it seems we're coming down the home stretch. I have only a few more items to recommend. But while there are relatively few items to recommend, they are still excellent items. This is a wonderful box put out by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. I'm going to open it up and show you what's inside. Inside this box we find several things. We find, pardon me Dr. McCoy, it includes, this is a Lovecraftian radio play called A Solstice Carol. This is a series that the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society puts out called the Dark Adventure Radio Theater. And it includes the audio performance as well as some sort of artifacts, some mock artifacts like newspaper clippings. So that's a lot of fun. But the box doesn't just contain that. It also includes Lovecraftian Christmas tree ornaments, including a Cthulhu and an elder sign. These are wooden ornaments. And it also includes this tentacle Christmas stocking, which is just charming if you're a Lovecraft fan. And within the stocking are some wonderful things. Inside of the stocking, or the tentacle, are 2 CDs, including A Very Scary Solstice and An Even Scarier Solstice. These are Lovecraftian Christmas carols, including such modern classics as Death to the World, and it's beginning to look a lot like Fishman, along with plenty of others. There are, 25 songs on this one and 22 on this one. And, as if that weren't enough, each of those also comes with a songbook. And the songbooks include lyrics, as well as music, as well as some essays. And so this is a wonderful box set of the Lovecraftian Christmas carols and the radio play. But this box is not the only way to get these items. You can buy these albums individually. You could buy, I believe they have a set that just comes with the stocking, with the CDs and the songbooks. So they have a variety of different sort of levels that you can get. These are excellent productions, and if you like sort of twisted Christmas music or Lovecraftian Christmas music, or if you're like me, and for some reason I always seem to associate Lovecraft and Lovecraftian horror with the Christmas season, and I really don't know why that is, but if you're like me, this is a wonderful gift, and you really want to get a copy of some variation of this collection. And as I put those items back in the box, I should also note that the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, of which I am a member, has a ton of great stuff. I highlighted this A Very Scary Solstice Christmas carols, Lovecraftian Christmas carols, but they have Lovecraft books, they have some movies that they've made, Lovecraftian movies, like they made the silent film edition of Call of Cthulhu. They have replica props, they have all kinds of stuff, and you could go nuts looking around their store. Speaking of the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, let me highlight one other thing that you can get from their store, and that is a rock opera adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's Dreams in the Witch House. That's this item here. Now this, of course, is the vinyl version. There's also a CD version. I'm particularly recommending the vinyl version because some people like that, and it's sort of a novelty. But if you get this version, it also comes with the CD inside, so you don't need to go to the record player to listen to it. You can have the more convenient version and the sort of collector's edition. I will also point out, on the album sleeves, it includes the lyrics to all of the songs. So this is a really nice edition. It's actually on 2 albums. And I will say, the idea of a rock opera of Dreams in the Witch House was sort of odd to me. I didn't really figure how that would match up. Turns out this is brilliant. I've listened to it many times. I will listen to it many more times. The music is excellent. It's actually a really good adaptation of Lovecraft's story. There's just really nothing not to like about Dreams in the Witch House, the rock opera. And if you're looking for a horror gift that maybe not everyone has already heard about, this is one that has not received the attention that it deserves, and it would make a wonderful gift. And finally, while we're talking about musical things, if you or the person you're shopping for happens to be musically inclined, there's a wonderful instrument that you could add to your idea list, and that is this. This is a bat-shaped ocarina. This is from the STL Ocarina Company. This is just a great musical instrument, and it's designed in a way that should please any horror fan. So this is a great gift as well. This is the Bat Ocarina from STL Ocarina. And so that does it. This is the holiday gift guide for horror fans for 2021. I hope you found something that either you will enjoy or that you think the people you're shopping for will enjoy. I hope you've got some ideas for gifts. Personally, of course I already have these items, but if I didn't have these, I would love to receive any of these, and I hope the people you're shopping for feel the same way. And so until next time, as always, take care and stay scared.